Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. So, we are on the OVA for Bungo Stray Dogs, and it takes place right after season 2. I'm not quite ready to start season 3 yet. I have this OVA, and then I have Dead Apple, which is the movie that's going to come after this next week before we dive into season 3. But season 2 ended on such a high note. It was amazing. And I'll be honest with y'all, in between season 2's conclusion and watching this, I've done a couple of things. One, I have been reading the Bungo Stray Dogs manga, and I've gotten 3 volumes in. So I'm 3 volumes in with it. And right now, it's right about the ending of season 1 is where the manga is, so that's exciting. So I'm updating on my Twitter, doing like live tweet reactions to the manga. So if you get on my Twitter account, if you go to my channel, there'll be a little Twitter button. You can follow me on there and just see what I post there about that. But I also read Dazai's entrance exam. Holy cow! Oh my gosh! Well, I was reading the manga, and the first volume of the manga covers episodes 1 through 3. And then episodes 4 and 5 are talked about in volume 2. And then 6 and 7 are just skipped. And then there's 8, 9, and 10, the episodes in volume 3. And so I was like, man, why don't we talk about episodes 6 and 7? It's because Dazai's entrance exam is going over episode 6 and 7 in the Kunikita story. And I thought, how perfect that we're getting Kunikita, apparently as the star of this OVA, from the thumbnail, that we're getting a Kunikita-centered OVA right after reading Dazai's entrance exam. But if you've not read the light novel, Dazai's entrance exam, my dog, I highly recommend it for a number of reasons. One, because it's from Kunikita's perspective. And that's probably my favorite part about that novel. It's from Kunikita's point of view. We get to see inside Kunikita's mind. And he's a much more interesting character than I think he's given credit for in the anime. Just seeing Kunikita struggle with jealousy when Sasaki is flirting with, or when Dazai is flirting with Sasaki, his jealousy, dealing with that, dealing with Kunikita's morals and his ideals, and how he views situations with the boy that's a tech guru and trying to be like a father figure to him, but feeling guilty about his dad. Like, it's such a cool perspective. But also in Dazai's entrance exam, there's a moment, and obviously they didn't put it in the anime because Atsushi's in the anime version. They kind of tailored it to fit into the timeline of the series, which they did really good on it. But there's a scene where Kunikita thinks, because he doesn't know who Dazai is, it's his entrance exam, he hasn't been around Dazai long enough, he thinks Dazai might be the Azure King. And there's a big confrontation between them. I talked about it on Twitter. It's so good, and it's so well done. I absolutely loved it, and I was like, ah, yeah. And also in the novel, Rampo meets Dazai, and there's a moment where Rampo instantly looks at Dazai, and you can tell he knows exactly who he is. His past with the Port Mafia, everything, but he chooses not to say anything. Because what's the point? So, it's so good! I highly recommend Dazai's entrance exam. I talk about it on Twitter, but it was really, really good. I'm so glad that I read it. And my goal before getting into Dead Apple is I want to go back and read the light novel, The Dark Age. I don't know if I'll get all the way through it, but I kind of like power read through the light novel Dazai's entrance exam this week to get to that before this OVA. But really good stuff. I highly recommend it. If you get a chance to read it, read the entrance exam novel. It's great. But I wanted to talk about President Yukichi. I wanted to talk about him because last episode we found out his power, all men are created equal. Or rather, at the end of episode 11, we found out about that. But he's a really fascinating character. He's on the Japanese currency. He's kind of on the equivalent of the US $10 bill. He's on the equivalent of that. But he is or I guess on the equivalent of the $100 bill, the Ben Franklin. But he's a fascinating character. And his power, all men are created equal, is derived from his book, An Encouragement of Learning, which spans 17 volumes. The guy liked to write, and highlights the importance of equality and opportunity and of education as being vital to success. And they outline independence as the goal of any individual and nation, as well as the transformation of the Japanese mind as it traverses a constantly changing cultural and political climate. I find that fascinating. One, because his power basically lets all of the people near him equally have power over their ability, which I think that kind of is really cool. But the real life Yukichi was all about women's rights. He was about equality between men and women, girls and boys, equality in education. I love that. I love that he was kind of a forward thinker, even back in the early 1900s, and was advocating for like cultural change. I find it funny that his character is all about cultural change and progression, but he still is hesitant on the alliance when facing the guild because they're a criminal organization, you know. But they end up kind of skirting the line and helping them anyway. So I find that fascinating. But he wrote a lot. He was kind of obsessed with Western culture, and when he went to America, he went to Los Angeles and obtained a Webster's dictionary and translated it all into Japanese, and was kind of responsible for kind of English being integrated into Japanese culture and Japanese language. And it's really cool to see how forward thinking he was in trying to make a more worldly culture in Japan. That was really, really cool. But here's the thing. There's a photo on the Wikipedia page for him, if you go to that photo, and it's of him with a photographer's daughter posing next to him, Theodora Alice Shue, in San Francisco in 1860. And she's a 12-year-old girl. And all I could think about reading that little excerpt and that caption of that photo is, man, Elise is a 12-year-old girl with Mori. And Fukichi commented about that. Interesting that. Just a weird coincidence that he's like, oh, Mori, you still like 12-year-old girls, huh? I've been told that was a translation issue, so good to know. But yeah, what the heck. I really like Fukichi as an author. His stuff is really fascinating, and his kind of integration of Western culture into Japanese I think is really, really cool. And he's not one of the authors that died young. I mean, he lived to be 66. And that was in the early 1900s, so he died in 1901. So I mean, that's fairly old for back then, you know, with everything else going on. And he also had 9 children, which I was thinking about. He had 9 children. How many people are in the agency? There's Yusano, there's Naomi, there's Rampo, there's Tanizaki, there's Dappo, there's Atsushi, there's Dazai, there's the girl that works with Naomi. Is there one more? And there's Kyoka. Is there 9? And Kenji part of that? I think there's 9 in the agency. And he had 9 children in real life. That's so cool. That's so cool. I love it. I absolutely love it. That's wonderful. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys that information about Yukichi and about the Dazai entrance exam, the book. Really cool stuff. I like in the entrance exam novel that you don't get to know Dazai it's from Kunekita's point of view, so you don't get into Dazai's head at all. And I'm assuming the Dark Age is from Oda's perspective. So again, we won't get into Dazai's point of view. But Dazai is such a he's interesting in the novel too. Like Kunekita can't place his finger on it. He's like, there's something off about him. And he thinks he's just an idiot at first. And then he realizes that there's something else about Dazai that's chilling, but he can't quite place it. Fun stuff. So anyway, I'm excited, y'all, to watch this OVA and see what all it's about. So it's Kunekita centered, and after reading Dazai's entrance exam, I have a much greater appreciation of him. So let's find out, shall we? We are going to start this episode walking alone, which I find interesting. It's labeled as episode 25 or episode 13, but we all know it's the OVA. So we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, let's go. So this was really good. I liked this OVA a lot. It's so funny that I just talked about Dazai's entrance exam because there's several elements from the entrance exam novel that's in this OVA, which is good timing, good timing. But when Kunekita is talking to Aya at the end, which I'm like, girl, you're way too young for him. But she was like, oh, well, she kind of like did a backhanded compliment. She's like, well, somebody like you probably doesn't have a wife or a girlfriend. She's like, so, you know, maybe you could date. And he's like, in his notebook, and we talked about this in season 1 in episodes 6 and 7, he has a list of all of his qualifications of a good wife, and there's like 58 qualities, and he's like, oh, you failed 31 of them. So it's like, and Dazai's like, don't ever show a woman this, you will never get married. And then Sasaki in episode 7, she was like, this person doesn't exist. So, but yeah, the idea of who's the second in command, because you know you have with the Port Mafia, you have your 5 executives, and you have Mori as the president, so as the leader. So there's a hierarchy there. With this agency, there's not really a hierarchy. There's the president, Yukichi, and then it just kind of is everybody's in a free for all. But if anybody had to be the second in command, it would be Kunekita. And Dazai saying at the end that yeah, if something were to happen to the president, Kunekita would be the one to take over, which makes me a little nervous because I'm like, that's some death flags that you're throwing out there for our president. why? It was also weird that we had the season 1 OP and Edie, but then they give away Chuya's ability in this, and they show the special ops president. So I'm guessing maybe this actually took place between seasons 1 and seasons 2, and they just showed this because they mentioned the events of episodes 6 and 7, but we don't see Kyoka. We don't really see anybody from the Port Mafia other than Chuya. So maybe this actually took place between season 1 and season 2, and they just chose to put it at the end of season 2 because by that point you figured out Chuya's ability and you know who the special ops president is. They're just dropping that. And also the special ops president talks about the business permit, and if you had this sandwiched between season 1 and season 2, it would make sense because then the business permit thing leads into the Dark Age arc where that's kind of the center focus. That's what Mori's after. So that makes sense. But this was really good. Like I said, in the light novel, I really liked that it was from Kunakita's perspective because he's a very interesting character, and I like that he seems so straight-laced on the surface, but he has constant thoughts running through his head, and he's constantly thinking about everything, and him trying to have some sense of chaos, of order within chaos is a big part of him having that notebook. And I love that Dazai is such a troll. Dazai is so gung-ho about creating chaos. He's like, well, let's just screw it up. I love it. I love that he's all about it. But I want to go back to the OP where we saw the president with all of them because I wanted to confirm that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and Kyoka makes 9. The 9 children. Oh, I love it! I love it! Oh, that's such a great tie-in to the president, him having the 9 kids in real life, and there's the 9 people in the agency. Chef's kiss. And I guess you could include the intern as part of the 9, with or without Kyoka, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, interesting stuff. Also, if you notice in real life, Yukichi has like the same kind of kimono and garb and all the photos of him, much like the president, which I find fascinating as well. But yeah, old Kunakita trying to live by his ideals and then ended up going off the beaten path. But he took all those notes and knew that Yasano was there. The Yasano thing, it's a little bit of a cop-out because I was like, how'd she have time to like heal them and slice them up and heal them? But you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to accept it. It was clever. It was clever having her show up on the scene to cut them up and deal with them. I'm watching My Hero Academia at the same time, and in season 5, the episode where there's the villain ending, it kind of reminded me of this villain too, of him having that vendetta against Kunakita, just like the villain in My Hero Academia has the vendetta against Endeavor. I also want to note that in this world, do the people that call get the right to choose what their image is when they call, what it looks like? Because Dazai, his image on Kunakita's phone when he calls is Dazai hanging and dying. It's morbid. Very morbid. And I'm like, I doubt Kunakita chose that as Dazai's representation. I have a feeling Dazai put that in his phone, and because he just looks super annoyed by it. But yeah, the idea of having the man, because in the light novel, Master Carlisle, and he's so excited. In the light novel, it's established that there's a European man that makes all of his notebooks, and when he tears out a page, that's the only way for his ability to be used, is to have a page of his notebook tore out. So he has this man in Europe create multiple notebooks for him so he'll never run out of paper. And it's Master Carlisle. And he gets so animated and happy, and he's like, oh my god, I love his notebook. Tell him I love him and I respect him. It's like, oh my god. Like, that's the happiest we've ever seen Kunakita. And Dazai is just so excited, and Atsushi's like, he's a monster. It's like, yes, absolutely. But yeah, the whole idea of Aya-chan and this guy, and I love at the very end that Kunakita, he's like, if something happens, I'm not going to let you die in front of me. So he makes the decision. He's like, I'm taking responsibility and making the decision to choose them over you. But because I've done that, I'm not going to let you die alone. I'm going to die with you. And I like that he was banking on Yasano saving them, but then she's like, well, what would happen if that didn't work out? If you didn't save me in time? And he's like, then I would have just died with you. It's like Kunakita, a man of his ideals. And Dazai warned him back in episode 7 of season 1. He's like, your ideals, if you rely on them too much, you're going to end up following the Azure King's path. But I don't think so. Not in Kunikita's case. He makes the claim that he's going to be different, and I really think that he will, based on this OVA. But yeah, that was so cute. I really, really liked it. Kunikita with his glasses off, by the way, not a bad look. I feel like in anime, the very attractive characters, they give them glasses to like tone it down. At least that's what this seemed like. He didn't look unlike the president in that scene either, where he like reaches for her. And I almost want to see Kunikita with his hair down. I wonder if we ever get to see that, him without his hair in that ponytail. If we actually get to see it. Without his glasses, he does look a lot younger. His voice is so deep that it makes him sound older too, but he does seem like more of like a 22-year-old in that scene there. But yeah, there's no comparison. That everybody, every life is important. Ah, it's so good. It's so good. And then, of course, Yasano saving them. Awesome. And then I like that Chuya, I guess Chuya was sent to investigate it and see what was up. And he's just sticking around the elevator, hanging upside down like a freaking bat, because of course he is. He's like, no, boss, it's nothing. A foolish attack by someone who resents the agency, which kind of ties back to season 2 with the Port Mafia looking after the city as well, because it seems like if this guy had been just making an attack on the city, that's the Port Mafia's turf, they would have taken him out. But he's like, nah, he was just some fool who had a vendetta against the agency. I could have enjoyed it some if he'd at least gone after that dimwit Dazai. Then again, that hooligan wouldn't have stood a chance. No, not at all. But yeah, so cool. And then we get that foreboding scene with the president and is it Taneda from Special Ops? I like when he's like, I may be stressing out over nothing. It's like, no, that's never the case. And then Dazai describing Kunikita as unwavering, unyielding, and aware of the weak, which is very idealistic, and saying that Kunikita is a man fit to be a leader. Because yeah, when they talk about who's the second in command after the president, it's like Rampo's been there the longest, and he's he may have been there the longest and had the better ability, but he is not suited to be a leader. Rampo is way too much of a lone wolf. He's like, nah. And Dazai is way too chaotic and morally gray to be in that route either. So yeah, it's definitely Kunikita. But I'm a little worried now because dropping those death flags, I guess if this was happening before season 2, part of season 2 was the president being like, if you're going to come after somebody, come after me. Don't come after my subordinates. So maybe it was kind of prefacing that Mori and the Port Mafia would be going after the president, trying to kill him. And maybe building up to the guild. I don't know. This is a nice little one-off, but I do feel like, in hindsight, watching this, I feel like it came before season 2 started, is when this originally aired, and then, or at least took place. And then you have season 2, and then Dead Apple, and then you have season 3. So yeah, very interesting indeed. But yeah, I really, really liked that. I thought that was cute. Like I said, if you get a chance to read the light novel, Dazai's Entrance Exam, it's very, very good. It's a good light. It's nice to see Kunikita's perspective, especially because he didn't really have a lot to do in the second season. It was mainly Dazai and Atsushi's story, so Kunikita just kind of got shoved to the wayside. So I like that we get this OVA detailing what's happening with him. But yeah, I'm really excited for Dead Apple. Y'all have told me to make sure that I watch the movie because there's parts of it that tie into season 3. I'm very, very excited. So, with that being the case, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you thought of Walking Alone, the OVA, which I think that's a fitting title for Kunikita because he does kind of go lone wolf on these scenarios, which kind of ties back to the president's name, which was Grey Wolf. So, but in any case, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please let me know. Please, no spoilers, but next week I'm going to be watching Dead Apple, reacting to it, and then we'll be starting on season 3. And so in the meantime, I'm going to try to read the Dark Age novel. I'm going to be checking out more of the manga. Like I said, if you go to my Twitter and you follow it, I'm going to be posting some reviews of the manga from there. And then, I don't know, I may have to poll everybody as we get close to the end of season 3 to see if I'll definitely stop, I think, with the manga as I get close to the events of season 3. I'll kind of stop there. But maybe I'll read the manga and catch up with it after the season 3 of the anime. Because a lot of you have been waiting on the season 4, but there's been no announcement. So maybe I'll read the novel. Maybe I'll read the manga and catch up. I've done that with other shows. I've done that with Hanaga-kun. And I've done that with Modao Zushi. So why not Bungo Stray Dogs? And we have Juan too. So there's that as well. But I don't know. In any case, I'm curious to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the reaction. And please have a wonderful week. Stay safe. And I'll talk to y'all again soon with more Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye.